When I say I poured everything into that project, I mean it. 2 years of my life. Late nights lit by my laptop screen. Weekends with cold coffee and spreadsheets. Missed birthdays. Missed sleep. Missed chances at joy. All for a single shot. At being taken seriously in a company that never saw me as more than support. It started with an idea. A data-driven, scalable restructuring plan that could save the company nearly $2.5 million annually across 3 departments. I called it Project Horizon, and it was mine. Research, projections, implementation frameworks, all written in the margins of takeout napkins and late-night Slack messages to myself. But when the email hit my inbox that Monday morning, I thought, I had misread it. Subject: Congratulations to Madison on her new role as Director of Operations Strategy. My stomach dropped. Madison? Madison, who joined our team just a year ago, who sat next to me asking what acronyms like EBIT and CAC stood for, was now director of the exact department my plan was designed to revolutionize. I blinked, scrolled, reread. My name wasn't anywhere in the announcement. No mention. No credit. Not even a line about collaboration. Just a glowing paragraph about how her forward-thinking proposal had positioned the company for record Q4 efficiency gains. My chest went tight. Cold. I stared at the words until my screen blurred. Let me rewind. I worked as a senior analyst in strategic solutions for a mid-size logistics firm. Not flashy, but I loved it. I loved problem-solving, untangling inefficiencies, building frameworks from scratch. Madison was hired as a cross-departmental liaison last year. Friendly, new-age buzzwords, always smiling, always picking my brain. I didn't mind helping her at first. She'd pop by my desk with iced coffee, ask questions about workflow silos, how I mapped cost redundancies, what tools I used for forecasting. I thought she respected me. What I didn't realize was she was building a file. My file. The moment I truly understood what she'd done came 2 hours after that email. She strutted into the Monday morning leadership meeting, the one I had helped prepare her for, thinking she was observing for professional development, and stood in front of our department heads like she owned the room. I sat off to the side, my throat burning. As she pulled up slides I recognized verbatim from my Project Horizon deck. Same structure, same language. Even the sample case study I had pulled from a warehouse in Milwaukee. She was presenting it like it was her own fieldwork, and no one blinked. In fact, they clapped. When our CEO asked her how she came up with such a holistic model, she smiled and said, "It's something I've been working on quietly for a few months, just a passion project." My hands curled into fists in my lap. Quietly. A few months. I had started Project Horizon 22 months ago. After the meeting, she walked over to me in the hallway with that same bright-eyed smile she always wore, holding a matcha latte in one hand. Crazy. Day, huh? She giggled, tucking her hair behind her ear. Don't worry, I'll still loop you in for the implementation phase. I stared at her. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. Not rage. Not yet. It was the emptiness that hits you before the storm. Like watching someone walk into your childhood home and paint over the walls without asking. She had taken what I built and left me standing in the ashes smiling, and now she thought I'd help her implement it. That night I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I printed everything. I opened my files, the originals. I downloaded my version history. I bookmarked timestamps. I backed up audio memos, emails, Slack threads, internal presentation drafts, everything with metadata, and then I opened a spreadsheet. I didn't call it revenge. Not yet, but I named it Project Reset. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Madison smile, the smug little tilt of her head, the way her voice had sweetened when she said, "Don't worry, I'll loop you in." As if I should be grateful for the scraps. But no, that was over now. I spent hours sorting through files. Not just Project Horizon. Everything. Notes. Voice memos I'd left for myself. Drafts dated 18, 19, 20 months back. Emails where I outlined concepts to my old manager. Slack threads with timestamps where Madison asked me about models I had clearly authored. The deeper I went, the more disturbing it became. She had been doing this for months, quietly collecting my work, asking questions she didn't need the answer to, saving screenshots, then repackaging my ideas with new formatting and calling them her own. I was too trusting, too focused on the work. And now, she was standing in my promotion, holding my future in a department she didn't even understand. But the truth, the real truth, she wasn't smart enough to sustain it. By midweek, the company newsletter was praising Madison's innovative plan and hinting at more restructuring strategies to come. The very next day, I got a new assignment. From her. She sent it via Teams. "Hey, could you draft up a resource allocation framework for Phase 2 based on the Horizon model? Would love your insights." No mention that I wrote Horizon, no credit. Just a chipper emoji and a request. My hands hovered over the keyboard, and then I smiled. "Fine. You want Phase 2? You'll get it." What I sent her looked exactly like what she asked for. Clean, organized, with implementation logic that even the CEO would approve. But baked into the model, subtly, elegantly, were two major flaws. Flaws that anyone with real understanding of the framework would catch in a second. Flaws that, when executed, would throw key warehouse operations into chaos within weeks. I didn't send it maliciously. I sent it strategically. Because I had already looped in my friend. Jason from IT, one of the few people I still trusted, to archive every email and track the rollout. The moment things failed, the metadata would point directly to Madison. Meanwhile, I made moves, quiet ones. I started floating my resume. But not just anywhere. I targeted the company's top competitor, East Point Logistics. I knew they'd kill for the Horizon framework, the real version, not Madison's diluted, stolen draft. I met their director of strategy over coffee. Told him I had a 2-year optimization plan, already proven to cut multi-department costs. He asked where I worked. I gave him the name. He blinked. Wait. Didn't they just announce that model under a new director? I smiled. Yes, but would you believe she doesn't even know how to run it? Back at the office, the cracks had already begun to show. Madison called me into her office the following week. Well, my old manager's office. She was pacing, flustered. Hey, that Phase 2 rollout isn't aligning with the inventory flow models. Did you double-check the logic on that? I blinked slowly. Of course. It matched the Horizon flow spec, unless someone changed the trigger sequence in the conversion tables. She hesitated. Well, I did. Slightly. For visibility, I nodded. That might explain it. Then I walked out. Later that day, I forwarded Jason's metadata files, with timestamps and the original Horizon model, to East Point's director. He replied an hour later with one line. "When can you start?" By the start of the third week, Madison was drowning. Her carefully curated facade, the perky confidence, the big executive words she barely understood, it all started to crack under the weight of a plan she didn't know how to lead, and it was happening faster than I expected. Warehouse teams were confused. The Phase 2 protocols, the ones I had deliberately flawed, began backfiring in real time. Pallets were delayed. Trucks were double booked. Inventory counts didn't match the system. I watched it unfold like a silent movie, sitting at my desk while Madison scrambled to retrain teams she never met in departments she didn't know how to run. The best part, she couldn't come to me for help. Not without admitting I was the one who built the system in the first place. She was trapped. Every decision she made now, every change she implemented, only made the unraveling worse. And all I had to do was nothing until HR called me in. "A few concerns have come up regarding your recent deliverables." I knew exactly what this was. Madison had gone to HR, with the fake smile, the faux concerned tone, and tried to blame me for the rollout. Mess, she was cornered. So she did what every political opportunist does. She panicked and played victim. But I came prepared. I slid a flash drive across the table. This has the full version history of Project Horizon, time-stamped files, the original framework, and a comparison of the changes made to the version that Madison submitted to the executive team under her name. The HR rep blinked. "So, you're saying..." "I'm saying the plan she pitched wasn't hers. It was mine. She modified it to cut me out. And now it's breaking because she doesn't understand the original architecture." Silence. Just the click of the pen in the HR rep's hand. "You do realize these are very serious allegations. Then you should take them very seriously," I said. "Because if I walk, so does everything holding her version of Horizon together. And so do your Q4 savings." Later that afternoon, Madison messaged me. "Wow, so you went to HR after everything I've done for you? You seriously couldn't just be happy for me? You need to learn how to be a team player." I didn't reply. Instead, I copied the thread and added it to my growing archive of evidence. But I wasn't just playing defense anymore. By the end of the week, I accepted East Point Logistics' offer. More money, better title, full creative freedom, and the cherry on top, I'd be spearheading their national optimization project, which looked suspiciously like Horizon 2.0. They didn't just want me, they wanted Madison's downfall to be public. Before I left, I sent one final email to the executive board. No threats, no drama. Just a clear, professional memo outlining the discrepancies in the project data, my formal resignation, and a polite reminder that they had promoted someone who didn't know what she was doing over the person who built the system they were profiting from. Within 2 hours, I was locked out of my company email, and 3 days later, I heard Madison had been reassigned to a non-strategic role in HR analytics. Translation? She got demoted, quietly, embarrassingly, permanently, and I wasn't even done yet. 2 weeks into my new role at East Point Logistics, I started sleeping again. It was the little things at first. Not waking up in a cold sweat replaying her fake laugh. Not flinching every time I heard my Slack ping. Not feeling like I had to constantly defend my own worth. I'd spent so long under someone else's spotlight I had forgotten what it felt like to be seen without being stolen from. Now, I was in the room. Not because I played nice. Not because I smiled on cue. But because I earned it. My first day, they handed me a sleek badge, a laptop, and an office with glass doors and a view of the city. Second day, I was in the boardroom, with VPs twice my age, walking them through the real version of Project Horizon, my version. The uncorrupted model, the one that worked. They listened, took notes, asked questions. Not once did anyone talk over me. Not once did anyone claim my ideas as their own. It was everything my last job wasn't. Meanwhile, back at my old company, things weren't going so well. I'd heard from a former coworker, discreetly via LinkedIn, that Madison's reassignment wasn't going smoothly. Apparently, the HR analytics role was a placeholder. She had no team, no projects, no real authority. The company couldn't outright fire her, not without risking a PR mess. But they could isolate her. She was effectively boxed out, and that wasn't even the best part. Remember that little file I called Project Reset? Well, it had a Phase 2, and Phase 2 was public. East Point's media team worked fast. We drafted a white paper, Transformational Optimization in Distributed Logistics Networks, and published it under my name, complete with data from the original Horizon framework. Charts, outcomes, forecast models. Within a week, it got picked up by a top-tier industry journal. Within 2, it was trending on LinkedIn. By the 3rd week, East Point had added a press release announcing me as their newest Director of Operational Innovation, credited for developing the groundbreaking Horizon methodology adopted by major firms across the region. They didn't name my old company. They didn't have to. People knew. The logistics world was small, and reputations moved faster than freight. Then came the conference. An annual industry summit in Chicago, where executives, tech partners, and media all rubbed shoulders. This year's theme? Sustainable Innovation at Scale. East Point was a platinum sponsor. And I was the closing keynote speaker. As I walked onto the stage, lights warming my skin, applause rising, I spotted her, Madison, tucked in the back row, beside a junior associate from her new department. No name badge, no title on the program. She looked thinner, paler, like she hadn't slept since the last quarter, and when I started my speech with, 2 years ago, I built a system no one believed in, until someone else tried to take it, I saw her flinch. I didn't call her out by name. I didn't have to. The silence in the room said everything, and the standing ovation, that was mine. Every clap, every cheer, every eye that turned to me instead of her. Finally. The speech made headlines, and not just in boring corporate blogs. Major outlets picked it up. From overlooked analyst to industry innovator, one headline read. Another, she built the system that saved millions, then watched someone else take the credit. My LinkedIn exploded. Hundreds of messages, recruiters, founders, even a few quiet apologies from old colleagues who had turned the other way when Madison was stealing my thunder. But I wasn't bitter, not anymore. I was focused, precise, calculated, because I wasn't done yet. 2 days after the conference, I got a calendar invite. Anonymous sender. Subject, coffee, location, a quiet cafe 2 blocks from my new office. I almost declined, until the second message came in, please. Just 5 minutes. I need to explain. Madison sat at a window table, stirring a drink she hadn't touched. No blazer this time. Just a pale blue blouse and tight shoulders. Her smile, the one that used to seem effortless, now looked glued on, chipped at the corners. Thanks for coming, she said softly. I nodded but didn't sit. I didn't need to. You humiliated me, she said after a pause. I didn't even know East Point was courting you. You promoted yourself with my work, I replied, calm as glass. I just told the truth. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. I didn't think they'd promote me. At first, I just wanted to impress them. You were always so good. You made it look easy. I said nothing, because the truth was, it wasn't easy. I had bled for that project. I had broken for it. Sacrificed things she couldn't even begin to understand. I thought maybe if I got the role, I could fix it later. You know? Bring you in. Share the credit once it all worked. I raised an eyebrow. After you were already sitting in the position that was supposed to be mine? Her voice cracked. I didn't expect it to blow up like this. They're freezing me out. I might get fired. I stared at her, the same woman who had looked me in the face and smiled while cutting me out. The same one who told me to be a team player. Now, here she was, begging. What do you want, Madison? I asked. An apology? A reference? You want me to fix your reputation? She blinked fast. I thought maybe you'd understand. We were friends. That word hit wrong. It clanged like a broken bell. Friends? I said, voice steady. Friends don't climb over each other's backs and call it ambition. She looked down. Silent. I slid a napkin across the table, one I had written a single sentence on. I forgive you, but I won't forget. Then I left. I never looked back, not because I hated her, but because her chapter in my story was already closed. I had bigger things to build now. Forgiving Madison wasn't weakness. It was closure. But what I didn't expect, what I should have known really, was that she wasn't done. Because people like Madison don't just vanish, they rebrand. It started subtly. A LinkedIn update 3 weeks after that cafe meeting. Excited to be joining a forward-thinking consultancy focused on strategic recovery and operational growth. Her. Title: Principal Logistics Strategist. The company? A boutique agency founded by 2 former C-level execs, men who had quietly stepped down after being exposed in a merger gone wrong. Madison had landed herself in a circle that loved buzzwords and loathed accountability, and it didn't take long before I heard her name again. East Point was expanding. I was leading an internal audit on regional partnerships when a new vendor proposal crossed my desk. The branding was slick. The numbers were decent. The language, familiar. Too familiar. Then I saw it, buried in the footer of the last page. Strategy Consultant, Madison A. Thorne. I called a meeting with our CFO. We're considering a vendor whose lead strategist was recently demoted for professional misconduct, I said, keeping it factual. I have documentation, if needed. She tilted her head. Really? We were told she had voluntarily stepped down, that she was overqualified for her previous role. I smiled. Is that what she told you? Then I handed over the timeline, the data records, the files, my resignation letter, the white paper, the press. Links. I didn't have to make it dramatic. I just showed the receipts. That vendor didn't make it to phase 2. And Madison? Her contract was reassessed within days. Weeks passed. I didn't hear from her again, not directly, but a mutual acquaintance messaged me with a screenshot of A now deleted tweet. Funny how some women can't stand to see others win unless they're in control. Policy. Success haters. Let women lead. I didn't reply. I just posted a photo of our team at East Point's newest warehouse opening, holding the award we just won for Best Strategic Innovation of the Year. No tags, no callouts, just the work speaking for itself. But I knew something else now. Madison wasn't the only one watching. Others had seen what she tried to do. Others who were smarter, more subtle, more powerful. And if I wanted to survive in this industry, if I wanted to lead in it, I couldn't just outwork them. I had to outplay them. Success has a strange way of attracting shadows. You think once you've proven yourself, once the speech is done, the job secured, the truth revealed, you'll finally breathe easy. But the higher you climb, the more people below look for cracks. And sometimes, those people are the ones you thought you left behind. 2 months passed. Madison stayed quiet. No more subtweets, no strange vendor proposals. Her LinkedIn profile went inactive. Some mutuals speculated she'd left consulting altogether. I didn't care. I was building. Our team at East Point had just secured a major contract with an international distribution firm. Horizon 3.0, the next generation of my system, was nearly ready. Streamlined AI-backed predictions, real-time supply chain adjustments, integrated sustainability metrics. It was what I had dreamed of when I was just an analyst. Now, it had my name on every slide. Then came the email, sent to East Point's press division. Subject line, request for clarification. It was from a freelance journalist. The tone was polite, but too curious. Hi, I'm researching the origins of a recent logistics framework referred to as Horizon, particularly its implementation and authorship. I've received conflicting claims regarding the intellectual origins and ownership of the model. Conflicting. My stomach nodded. I clicked through to her signature, then her portfolio, then her recent sources. One stood out. Madison A. Thorne, former strategic consultant turned whistleblower. Whistleblower? I felt my throat go dry. I called the journalist, calmly, professionally. Hi, this is Ava Chen returning your inquiry. I'm the author of Horizon. I've retained documentation of its creation and deployment timeline across 2 companies. I'd be happy to provide materials, including version history, source files, and legal sign-offs. There was a pause on the other end. Then the journalist exhaled slowly. Thank you. That's very helpful. Ms. Thorne painted a very different picture. Claimed the project was collaborative. Even said she was pushed out unfairly after internal politics got messy. I almost laughed, but I didn't. Please let me know if you need access to the legal settlement she quietly signed upon her demotion. It includes a non-compete clause. Silence. Then. She didn't mention that. Of course she didn't. 2 days later, the story dropped. Not the one Madison wanted. The headline read, Innovation or Imitation. The story behind logistics' most disputed framework. It was balanced, professional, but the facts were clear. Madison's claims were unsupported. Her name appeared on 0 official documents. The only person consistently linked to Horizon, from conception to execution, was me. My inbox flooded. Again. So did East Point's. Only this time, something else happened. 3 board members from my former company reached out directly. One of them, a VP who had sat stone-faced while Madison was promoted over me, wanted to talk. "We may have made a mistake," he said. "We'd like to discuss a potential strategic partnership, or perhaps your return." I didn't laugh, but I did forward the message to East Point's CEO. His reply, "Want to make them pay for real?" I replied with one word, "Absolutely." 6 months later, I walked through the revolving glass doors of my former company's headquarters, but I wasn't carrying a resume. I wasn't there for an interview. I was there because East Point Logistics had just finalized its strategic acquisition of Stratus Chain Holdings, my old company. They were hemorrhaging money. After Madison's collapse and the executive board's quiet shuffling, what remained was a skeleton of what they once were. They needed East Point's resources. East Point needed their infrastructure, and me, I needed closure. The boardroom was exactly the same. Same leather chairs, same massive table, same coffee that always tasted like cardboard. But the people were different now. They watched me. Eyes flicking between my East Point badge and the merger documents I placed gently on the table. "Welcome back, Ava," said the new COO, formerly the VP who had ignored every warning I gave about Madison. "We're excited to work with you again, this time as equals." I smiled. "Let's be honest. I'm not here as your equal. I'm here to clean up the mess you made by ignoring the person who built your only sustainable success." The room went silent. "But don't worry," I added, standing. "I don't hold grudges. I build legacies." I stepped out of the boardroom, without shaking a single hand. My work was waiting, not in this building, but across the street, where East Point had just opened a new innovation lab. My lab, my team, my system. As I walked across the plaza, the sun cutting sharp lines across the concrete, I passed someone I hadn't seen in months. Madison, sitting on a bench, typing furiously into a cracked phone, a worn tote bag beside her. She looked up. Our eyes locked. There was no drama, no final confrontation, no begged apology, just that split second of silent recognition. She stood. I didn't slow down. "Ava, wait." I paused. "You won," she said, voice small, almost bitter. "Is that what you wanted?" I studied her. "No," I said. "I just stopped letting you win." That was the last time I saw her. But every time someone cites Horizon in a keynote, or I hear a junior analyst say they want to pull an Ava, I remember. Not her. Me. What I survived. What I rebuilt. What no one could steal anymore.